Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, sir. Happy New Year
Good
po.
morning. Let's set the view.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Ba't hindi lumalabas yung... Yeah, can't see myself.
Hi, Sir Andy.
Hello. Hi. Good morning. How's everyone? Hello. Yes. Good morning. I hope everybody's okay. I think meron iba nagda-drive. Miss Meng, drive carefully. Pwede nang i-off mo na yung video. Welcome to the very first, medyo late na tayo, but this is the very first session natin or Power Hour for 2026. I think si Jonathan is on his way now to the Philippines and he'll be here this morning. But today we are going to have a very special guest. I know you're used to our very good friend si Joey Bondok. Na suki natin dito. But today we're going to have a different perspective, a fresh perspective from somebody who's somehow came from mamaya makikita yung background. Medyo related before with KW through our former mother company, which is Philinvest. Okay, so how's everyone? Okay naman, how's your New Year? I hope everybody had very good and meaningful holidays. I hope everybody was safe and I hope everybody enjoyed your Christmas or your long Christmas break. Now, 2026, now we're facing 2026 and the way you approach another year is always to get a perspective from maybe the macro view so we will know how to navigate through this year. Sabi nga, I've watched a couple of influencers or real estate veterans who are saying 2026 is going to be very challenging. But personally, I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe any bad forecasts. I would rather be wrong in doing a positive forecast than be right doing a negative forecast. The thing to do is always be prepared. Kagaya ng sinasabi ko, people can make money even in the worst of times. I've shared with you my experience. The pandemic, the 2 years of the pandemic were two of my best years. While on the other hand, people lose money even in good times. Okay, depende kung saan ka nakaposisyon. So, but it is very important to know what's going to happen in the market. So today, our speaker will be sharing with us yung trends, di ba? Yung trends ng ano yung forecast nila, ano yung outlook nila for 2026. And then if we still have time later, I will be sharing with you naman the fundamentals. The trends happen, the trends are reactive, but then what drives them are the fundamentals. So that one, if we still have time, I will be sharing with you because that is what is important. That is what drives the trends, no? So in the long term. So without much further ado, I would like to introduce to you our speaker, also from our favorite partner, si Colliers. No? Our new, our I think he's going to be speaking for us for the very first time now. He graduated from the University of the Philippines in Los Baños in 2017. So a very young professional, very young guy. with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Economics. So very well fit for this subject. And he started as working in a financial and software company, overseeing mergers and acquisitions deals. And then in 2018, he transferred to Philinvest Land's corporate planning team as a researcher and found his interest in the real estate field. I don't know kung nag-abot sila ni Sir Steve Chen. No? Uh, he joined the corporate planning team as a researcher and found his interest in the real estate field. And then since 2021, so right after the pandemic, he started working as an analyst and in the research department under the supervision of our good friend Joey Bondoc. He covers the residential, office, industrial, retail, and hotel sectors, the very active sectors, no? And works with various departments such as the advisory, the office services, and the valuation teams to give timely and up-to-date information in the real estate industry. So, guys, without much further ado, let us give a very warm welcome to Brent Christian Respicio.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, correct. I think it's my first time to present for Keller Williams. So I'm very looking forward to this fruitful morning. So it's the second Monday of the year. In fact, this is my first presentation. So I am very glad to be sharing with you our outlook for 2026 for the different property sectors. So let me just share my screen for my presentation. So there could everybody see my screen already?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so before proceeding with our outlook for the real estate market, I'm first going to show the macroeconomic overview or what's happening in our country right now. So for the third quarter of this year, we've recorded a 4% GDP growth. So this is quite slower as compared to the previous quarter. But what's optimistic about this is that we're the second fastest in ASEAN despite the slower growth. So for the GDP growth forecast, because of the slower growth in Q3, analysts have revised their forecast down to 4.8 to 5.4%. But as what I've mentioned, we're still one of the fastest growing in the region. So that's a positive thing to look at it. And of course, what's fueling our consumption-led economy is the remittances. So for the first 10 months of last year, the Philippine Central Bank recorded about 29.2 billion in remittances, and they're projecting a growth of 2.8% to 3% by this year and next year, by 2025 until this year, 2026. So inflation is also slowing down. So for 2025, we had 1.7% of inflation. So this is the slowest in about 5 years, I think. And because of this, the central bank has also been reducing interest rates. So as of December last year, our interest rates have dropped to 4.5%. So this is one of the slowest since the pandemic. So this is a total of 200 basis point reduction since August of 2024. So despite the lower interest rates, the challenge right now is that mortgage rates remain elevated. So that's been dampening demand, particularly for the residential sector. But we're optimistic that with the reduction in interest rates and further cuts that the Philippine Central Bank is planning, hopefully mortgage rates will be reflected. So we're seeing a downward trend in that. So let me now share with you our outlook for the various property sector. So I'm going to start off with the office sector. This are our major outlooks. So I'm going to be discussing every bullet points in this slide in the succeeding slides, but just to give you a snapshot on our outlook for this year. So for the office sector, we're projecting about 416,000 of new square meters of new supply. So nearly 350,000 square meters of office supply will be delivered annually from 2026 to 2028. For the net take-up, we're projecting about 340,000 square meters for this year. Rents will likely remain stable, but we're projecting a recovery in certain business districts, including Makati CBD and Fort Bonifacio. And vacancy will potentially reach 19.9%. So still elevated, but the positive thing here is that we're averting the 20% level. So this is still sub 20%. And then we're also seeing sustained demand for office space outside of Metro Manila. So we have uh, key provinces such as Cebu, Davao, and Pampanga leading these transactions. And then flexible workspace has also emerged as a key to business continuity. A lot of landlords are now exploring offering flexible workspaces, and the demand for this is also expanding outside of Metro Manila. So this is our forecast up until 2028. So our vacancy as of third quarter last year is 19.8%, and we're projecting to end it at 19.9%. For 2026, we're expecting it to be flat at 19.9% until it drops further until 2028 to 19.2%. And then for last year, 2025, we actually revised our net take-up forecast to 285,000 because of unforeseen high demand in some major business districts. So we're already at 215,000 square meters as of the first 9 months of 2025. So we're pretty optimistic that we're going to reach our forecast of 285,000 by end of 2025. So this is our annual office supply pipeline. So from 2026 to 2028, we're expecting the delivery of nearly 350,000 square meters of new office space. So this is only a third of the 1 million square meters which was completed annually from 2017 to 2019, which was the peak of POGO demand in our country and pre-COVID demand. So we're expecting submarkets including Bay Area, Ortigas Fringe, and Quezon City accounting for majority of this new supply. So about 60% of new supply for the next 3 years. So as I've mentioned earlier, we're expecting rents to remain stable, but other submarkets which have lower vacancy, including Makati CBD, which has a single-digit vacancy. We also have Fort Bonifacio, 12% vacancy. We're expecting these markets to recover first and have a rental recovery starting 2026. In terms of provincial transactions, Cebu and Pampanga will likely cover for nearly 50% of deals outside of Metro Manila. So we're seeing a lot of inquiries as well as transactions in these provinces, particularly for outsourcing firms. So these are just some of the industries which are taking up office space outside of Metro Manila. So about 70% would still be coming from outsourcing companies. We also have flexible workspace providers now exploring expanding outside of Metro Manila. Then we have banking and finance as well. So for the first 9 months of last year, Cebu, Pampanga, Iloilo, and Davao led transactions outside of Metro Manila. So that's it for the office sector. I'm now going to proceed to the residential sector. So for the residential sector, we're seeing continued implementation of ready for occupancy promos. So given the substantial inventory of unsold RFO units in Metro Manila, some developers are now aggressive in offering more promos, attractive discounts. So if you're familiar with some developers, they're offering up to 60% discount in some of their projects. Others include rent-to-own terms, even free parking bundled with the condominium unit. So it just goes to show how developers are adjusting in the market in order to move their inventory. So we're also seeing sustained demand for horizontal units outside of Metro Manila. So this include house and lot only. Townships are also very popular right now. Developers are uh, aggressively differentiating their incorporating unique elements into their township. So later on, I'm going to show some examples that developers are implementing. So we're also forecasting a decline in vacancy in the secondary market as well as a recovery in the mid-income condominium market. Of course, that is as a result of the continued implementation of RFO promos by developers. This is our supply pipeline. So similar to the office sector, we're also seeing uh, stifled completion. So for from 2026 to 2028, we're projecting about 3,600 units being completed. So this is very far if we compare it to the peak of POGO demand in the country from 2017 to 2019. That's about 13,000 units. We're also projecting a gradual decline in vacancy. So ever since the POGO ban implemented by the president in 2024, we have recorded elevated vacancy of above 24 to 25%. But we're likely seeing it to drop starting 2026. So after peaking to almost 27% by end 2025, we're projecting it to soften to 23 to 26% by from starting 2026. So this elevated vacancy is of course brought about by the high vacancy, particularly in Bay Area. So that's about 50% to 60% vacancy. Since most POGOs have been concentrated in the Bay Area, and ever since the POGO ban, they have left, resulting in higher vacancy. But if we compare it to other submarkets such as Makati CBD, Fort Bonifacio, Ortigas Center, and Rockwell, they're actually recording below market average. So this elevated vacancy isn't really applicable to the overall market. It's only select submarkets, specifically the Bay Area, that has a high vacancy. So as what I've mentioned earlier, developers are now aggressive in offering deals and promotions to mop up the excess supply in Metro Manila. So these are just some of the promos that are applied by developers right now, up to 60% for spot cash down payment. Some developers are also offering allowing renters to move in to a fully furnished unit by just paying 5% of down payment. So also free parking slot as what I mentioned earlier. Another developer, what they did is that 36 months rent to own promo. So you're going to rent out your unit should you decide to buy it after 3 years or 36 months. A portion of what you've paid for the lease will be deducted to your purchase price. So this just goes to show how developers are really being creative in offering in offering RFO promos. Of what you've paid for the lease will be deducted to the purchase price. So this just goes to show how developers are being creative. This is the house and lot market situation outside of Metro Manila. So as what I've mentioned earlier, we're seeing sustained demand for horizontal units outside of Metro Manila. So leading here, we have Southern Luzon, Cavite, Laguna, and Batangas. And then Central Luzon, we have the province of Pampanga, then Cebu. So average take-up rate of house and lot units in key regions including Central and Southern Luzon, Central Visayas, Western Visayas, as well as Davao region would range from 86 to 98%. So this is for house and lot. If we go into lot-only units, also very sustained take-up of 81% to 96%. So just goes to show how our hypothesis of healthy take-up for horizontal units in key provinces. So as I've mentioned earlier as well, developers are aggressively differentiating in terms of their townships. So they're incorporating unique elements in order to differentiate in the market. So we have the likes of Ilocandia Coast Town in Ilocos. So this is a beachfront township. We have Centrala by Ayala Land in Pampanga. This will be located near the North-South Commuter Railway. River Park by Federal Land, they're offering commercial lots which is essentially offered in other townships. Then we have Lialto by Mega World in Batangas, which will have a golf course. Arilio by Ayala Land also in Batangas. This is a mountain front township. Then we have Finma Properties with Saludad in Bacolod, which will have a university. So that's it for the residential sector. Let me now proceed to the retail sector. So for the retail sector, compared to the office and residential sector, this is the property segment which has the lowest vacancy. So we're projecting it to fall below 10% starting 2026. But completion is down to a third of new supply from 2017 to 2019. And this is because a lot of developers right now are focusing on mall redevelopments. So if you've been roaming around Metro Manila, a lot of malls have been implementing redevelopment. So we have the likes of Mega Mall, MOA, so just to name a few. Mall developers are also now moving outside of Metro Manila. So to capture the office and residential demand in key provinces, foreign retailers such as home furnishing continue to take up space. So this is our forecast for retail vacancy. So for as of the third quarter of 2025, we've recorded 11.4% of retail vacancy, and we're projecting it to drop below 10% starting 2026. So our forecast is that it will drop to 7.3% starting 2027. And these are just some of the malls that are going to be completed for the next 3 years. So 111,000 square meters of new retail space. So this is down from 330,000, which was completed from 2017 to 2019. And what I've mentioned earlier, this is because of the as developers are focusing on redeveloping their malls instead of building new ones. So these are some of the malls that are going to be completed outside of Metro Manila. So we have new malls set to be completed in La Union. For Luzon, we have in Pampanga, Bulacan, and Cavite. We have Cebu, Bacolod, Iloilo, and Davao. So the notable things here, we have Power Plant Mall. So the first ones outside of Metro Manila, in Pampanga as well as in Bacolod. In terms of the tenancy mix, is still the food and beverage that will likely account for the new retailers that will occupy space for the next 12 to 24 months. So we're projecting about 50% of new retailers coming from the food and beverage segment. So foreign brands are also relentlessly expanding. So these are just some of the foreign brands which have expanded in Metro Manila and across the country over the years. So we have a Muji, which was launched in 2010. They now have 11 branches. Decathlon in 2017, they now have 17 branches. Nitori, this is also popular right now. They started in 2024, but they now have 6 branches. Anko as well, if you're familiar with this, a home furnishing retailer, they now have 5 branches. They recently opened their largest one in Trinoma. So, foreign retailers are also that previously exited are also returning to the country. So just to name a few, we have La Lola, which closed in 2020. They recently reopened in 2025. Ritas, which closed in 2022, they opened again in 2024. And then Arabica, after exiting our country in 2022, they immediately returned in 2023. Big box stores, they're also now starting to proliferate. So if you have memberships in any of these big box retailers, we have the likes of Decathlon, SNR, and Landers. So for example, SNR, which only had 15 branches in 2018, they now doubled their branches to 32 nationwide. We have Landers as well. From only 5 branches in 2018, this now tripled to 15 branches by 2025. So just goes to show how foreign retailers are finding the Philippines as an attractive site for their expansion. So let me now proceed to the hotel sector. So for the hotel sector, unfortunately, the government has failed to reach its tourist arrival target. So, but the good thing is that hotel occupancy have remained high, above 60%. And then more than 3,000 new hotel rooms will be completed in 2026. So more hotels are also being completed in emerging and thriving tourist destinations. So not just in Metro Manila. And what's been driving this demand are the MICE. So MICE and domestic tourists. So they're driving occupancy as well as hotel daily rates, excuse me. So for foreign arrivals in 2025, unfortunately, it's been down to only 5.6 million. So that's from almost 6 million in 2024. So DOT's arrival target is 8.4 million. So this is very far to the actual figure. And one of the major reasons is because of the declining foreign tourists, particularly in South Korea and China. But the Philippines has been aggressive in capturing other non-traditional markets in order to fill the void from our traditional partners. So hopefully this will result in higher foreign arrivals from 2026 moving forward. So in terms of hotel rooms, we're projecting about 3,000 hotel rooms to be completed in 2026. So this is actually our highest projection since 2018. So more hotels will be completed, particularly in Bay Area as well as Makati CBD. So these are just some of the hotels that will be completed. But the good thing is that more than half of this will actually be coming from foreign brands. So those highlighted in yellow are the foreign branded hotels that are set to be completed from 2026 to 2027. So hotel developers, whether local or foreign hotel brands, they're also now testing the waters outside of Metro Manila. So also in key tourist destinations, so we have Batangas, Cagayan de Oro, CDO, as well Bukidnon, Cebu, and Bohol. They're now opening up more hotels in these provinces. So some of the brands which are expanding, we have Dusit Princess, JW Marriott, Pullman. Sofitel actually, which recently closed down in Pasay, they're opening up in Pampanga very soon. I think they're already planning to develop that. So the rise of MICE. So when we say MICE, we have meetings, incentive, conferences. They're driving hotel demand across the country. So for example, for us, our company recently held our annual corporate planning last September. So we held it at SMX in Pampanga. So what we did is that we stayed overnight in Park Inn, so just beside SMX. So this is the strategy right now for developers. They're now complementing their hotels with MICE facilities. So we're projecting about 510,000 square meters of additional exhibition space from 2025 onwards. We're projecting new supply to be completed in Tarlac, Cavite, and Cebu. So these are just some of the events which are held in MICE facilities. So we have property exhibits, pharmaceutical product launches, including doctor conferences. And then previously, political campaign rallies, major concerts of local and foreign artists. We also have overseas employment summits as well as global and regional sporting events. So let me now proceed to the last sector, so the industrial sector. So for the industrial sector, our forecast is that Central Luzon will likely dominate new supply. So the Southern Luzon has been our primary industrial hub uh, ever since, but right now developers and locators are finding Central Luzon attractive because of its improving infrastructure as well as manpower. So it's now rising as a alternative manufacturing and industrial hub in the Philippines. So in fact, for the first 9 months of 2025, Southern and Central Luzon accounted for more than half of foreign investments. So this is a positive indicator because a lot of foreign investments being invested in our country would be coming from the manufacturing sector. So since majority of the industrial parks are located in Central and Southern Luzon, if these investments materialize, this will likely result in greater industrial space take-up moving forward. So last August 2025, President Marcos has signed into law the land lease extension, which was extending the lease of private land for up to 99 years from the current 75 years. So this allows foreigners to acquire land for industrial, commercial, tourism, and agricultural purposes. So this is a positive for the industrial sector because this will likely attract more multi-billion manufacturing investments, and this will help position the Philippines as a viable manufacturing hub in Southeast Asia because this will allow us to compete with other Asian countries which are already adopting the 99-year lease model, uh, including Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So this is a very positive since this will improve the country's supply chain moving forward. So I think that's it for our forecast. If you guys have any questions, I'm very free to answer it. But just to promote first, we're available in different social media sites, including LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube. My boss is writing columns for different newspapers, including Inquirer, Business World, Philstar, and Business Mirror. So we write articles weekly. So if you guys are have time, feel free to read our articles to know our insights in the property market. So I think that's it for my presentation. If you guys have any more questions, I'll be glad to answer them and share my insights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brent. That was a very bright start, no? A very bright forecast for 2026. Coincidentally, Joey also has a special section in the realestatenews.ph. So his articles coming from all these newspapers are dumped into that, are collected into that
Mm.
one-stop shop. Anyway, so in one line, how do you describe 2026? How will you describe the outlook for 2026?
So for 2026, probably two words. It's a mixed bag for the Philippine property sector. So it's not really industry wide. Some sectors are relatively performing better than the others, and the our recommendations actually for developers is that they should know which sectors to focus on. So, for example, the office and residential sectors right now they're still on a recovery mode. So what they should do is they should offer, for example, for the residential sector, as what I've been highlighting earlier, the RFO market is still has a very high inventory right now. So for that, the developer strategy is, of course, to clear out first the excess supply before launching new projects. And that goes with the office sector as well, since office is also has a high vacancy as compared to other sectors. So developers should also temper their launches. But as for the other sectors such as the retail, hotel, and industrial, so they're actually faring better. So developers should really know right now their forte or where they're really good at, because different developers have different forte. For example, SM is very good at retail, but the residential sector isn't doing very well. Ayala, they're actually good in retail as well as residential sector. And then Robinsons, they're not doing very good in retail, but they're actually doing better for office. So it's really a mixed bag for the property sector and for the different developers. So developers should really know where to focus on their energy on.
Yeah, same with the practitioners. I mean, the agents or the brokers. So you just follow the flow, follow the direction, and follow the money, right?
Yeah.
Kanina, you mentioned regarding the residential, the strong trend is going towards the south, and topping that is Batangas
Yeah.
and horizontal projects, right? With unique designs,
Yes, correct.
especially those which generates income as second homes. I just saw an article from Spot PH yesterday. The flight to secondary homes. And again, Batangas is there, specifically the Tagaytay area,
Yes, correct.
drivable.
Because of the improving infrastructure as well. So personally me, I live in Laguna, so also in South Luzon, and it would take me only between 1 and 1.5 hours to go to my office in Makati. So comparing it to the traffic in Metro Manila right now, so for example, you're living nearby Makati, so I think it would also take you 1 hour. So not much of a difference compared to me, which is living in Laguna. So it's really the infrastructure which is driving developer strategies right now.
Yeah, and also I think because of the effect of the hybrid
Yeah,
arrangement.
correct.
So a lot of people now can will have an option to have the bigger space for their buck.
Yes.
Because instead of getting a small studio for 10
Yeah,
million,
30
and
square meters,
diba, 30 square
per
meter for 10
meters
million
in,
in in
yeah,
in the city, you'll get what, almost 100 square meters in the south.
yes, correct. And as what It's also a good thing which you mentioned the hybrid. Uh, or as what we say in Colliers, hybrid is also here to stay. So some companies may be implementing 100% return to office, but companies such as us, we're still implementing hybrid office setup right now. So yeah, we think that the hybrid model is here to stay already.
Yeah, not only here, even in other countries,
Yeah,
it's already in the mainstream.
it's already becoming a norm right
Yeah,
now.
in fact, when you're hiring the Gen Zs now, their
Yeah.
first question is it
Is it a
hybrid?
hybrid? So it's a red flag for them if you're requiring them to go to the office for 5 times a week.
Correct. Now, you mentioned about the growth outside Metro Manila in terms of office space. I just want to clarify this growth. Is it a growth because of one expansion or a relocation, or there are new players?
It's actually a mix of the three of them, but majority would still be expansion. So I think more than half of these transactions would be coming from expansions, but a lot are also relocating right now. So for example, in Cebu, there's a lot of new office space. So what they're doing is that they're implementing flight to quality. So from their previous uh, old office spaces, they're now relocating to new office spaces. So that's what we call as flight to quality. And then there are also some new setups as well, but only a small fraction. But a lot would still be coming from expansions.
Yeah, you showed a very interesting graph earlier about the movements of the occupancy rate and
Mm,
this different submarkets and the different CBDs, no? And very glaring is the slow take up in the Bay Area, which
yeah.
is still at the 55% level.
Yes.
And this has been pulling the
Vacancy.
general average hovering around 19 to 21%
Yes. It's really
the past 4 years.
The Pogo ban's impact. And the problem kasi with that is because a lot of office spaces which are left out by the Pogo companies, they have a different layout. So, for example, some outsourcing companies which are planning to move to the Bay Area and other developers which have occupied spaces, they would try to offer that to outsourcing and traditional companies. But they wouldn't approve of the layout. So it would be costly for the developer to still renovate that. So what outsourcing and traditional companies are doing is that they're trying to avoid those type of spaces. So
Yeah, because the original layout of those units are really wide, open
yes, and they
layout.
really have it's very complicated and ambiguous. Eh.
Yeah. Now, uh, but with the Bay Area was originally meant for an
Pogos.
entertainment city, right?
Yeah.
Entertainment city. But then 2016 to 2019, the Pogos moved
Entered.
there. So the developers adjusted to this market. Now the designs are towards that market. However, there are still projects that are designed for the original intent of the Bay City, which is entertainment.
Yeah.
We still have the Bay City still drives the highest number of foot traffic in terms of tourists. And
Mm.
because of the events, you have the biggest event areas there, the malls,
Yeah.
the expos, right? So which means if there are projects there that are intended, conceptualized, and designed for short-term leasing, or because you still have a big shortage of hotel rooms in the Bay
Yes.
Area.
Yes, correct. It's a good thing that you mentioned that because I actually tried to have a staycation in one certain condo project in the Bay Area. So I think that's what developers are doing right now, offering them as Airbnb to somehow suit the high vacancy since no one is really occupying the condo units in Bay Area.
Yeah, but I think for those who are planning to own a property in the Bay Area, maybe not necessarily for cash flow in the short term,
Yeah,
this might even be a very
for
good time
end use.
for end use
Mm.
because the developers are quite friendly now
Yes.
in that
And
area. No?
also if you plan to rent out, Bay Area actually has a some condo projects in the Bay Area. They have attractive lease rates. I think I've been inquiring for the past few months. There is a certain project that's below 20,000 for a studio unit per month.
Furnished pa.
Yeah, for
And
fully furnished.
inclusive pa ng juice yan.
Yes.
Okay, now you also mentioned that there's an improved take-up in office spaces in the other CBDs.
Mm.
Now, I'd like to clarify that again. Is that being driven by the BPOs, or is it because of the reduced rental, or has it stabilized, or the move to the premium offices? Because there were some traditional offices occupying the older units, right? But
Mm.
then because of the adjustment in the rental rates, they now prefer to move to the premium offices, grade A
Yes.
offices, at almost the same price.
Yes, correct. So similar to your question earlier, regarding the provincial transactions, it's also a mix of expansion, and relocation. So the tenants are also doing flight to quality in Metro Manila. So imagine, because of the rental correction, you're correct. Imagine renting out a premium office building, newly completed, for let's say more or less 1,000 per square meter. So that's already very attractive. Instead of just TTS ka lang in your old office building. So flight to quality is a major factor for that. In terms of the profile, it's a mix of traditional and outsourcing firms. So for the traditional firms, we've seen a lot of government which are implementing this flight to quality. So we have the likes of NBI, they actually relocated in the Bay Area.
Bay Area.
Department of Tourism in Mandaluyong. Others, we've closed it, but I don't think we can disclose it
Immigration,
yet. Yeah, but yeah, a lot of DFA, Department of Foreign and
DFA,
Affairs,
Foreign Affairs. But because of very, very low rates, no?
rates, yes, and in newer and premium office buildings. So that's been driving the relocation.
Yeah, now let's move to tourism. The figures that you showed earlier, yes, in 2015 wouldn't hit to 2025 wouldn't hit the target, or 24.
Yes,
Uh, and then, however, the tourism receipts has still been very high.
yeah,
So you were referring to the foreign tourist arrivals, right?
arrivals only. But the rest is, I think they're still doing pretty well.
Yeah, because the domestic
Because of
tourism,
the yeah, because of inflation for one. So it's
yeah,
very costly in the country. And correct, domestic tourism has been driving the demand. So that's been somewhat filling the void that's been left out by our declining foreign arrivals.
okay. I saw in the top five tourist arrivals, and South Koreans
South Korea.
have topped that since the Chinese left. No,
Yeah.
so they're now on number three or number four. But the good thing is that Japan is still going up
Mm.
on the top three. But one thing I read in the last quarter of last year was that there's a move now to entice the
Indians.
Indians, and they're still not
Yes.
top five, right?
There's a no visa that's being implemented right now. So as what I've mentioned earlier, our Department of Tourism strategy is that they're trying to attract non-traditional markets right now to fill the void which are left by Chinese and South Koreans, which have declining arrivals. So but relatively the share of Indian tourists is still very small. So that's still something to look forward to. But at least it's a small step
Yeah.
And yeah,
And add more flights because there are very few flights, direct flights
yeah,
from Manila to
direct
yeah.
flights.
Yeah. And I think the other new airports will be able to cater to that.
Yeah.
And it's good. We're just preparing to accept this foreign tourists through our international airports, while the other neighboring countries are experiencing over
Yes, we're
tourism.
lagging in terms of arrivals.
Oh yeah, yeah. But still
Mm.
preparing. But most of us here are into uh, uh, residential.
Mm.
So, but then one thing that you mentioned earlier is the growth of the industrial sector.
Yeah,
And at this point, because there are two regions that were leading this for the past few years, which is Region 3 and Region 4A.
for
But now I think Region 3 is pulling away, you know.
yeah. A lot of developers are now in expanding their industrial footprint in Central Luzon. So just to give an example, Aboitiz, they had a successful Lima estate in Batangas. So that's about 1,000 hectares. So they're trying to replicate it in Tarlac, the Tari estate. So that's about I think almost 400 hectares. So similar to Lima, it will also be a mixed-use industrial estate. So just goes to show how Central Luzon is now slowly becoming an alternative industrial hub aside from Southern Luzon.
Yeah, even your previous company, your former company,
Philinvest,
Fininvest Land has been doing very
Philinvest
well.
New Clark City,
New Clark
Innovation
City.
Park. Yeah.
After being challenged for uh, the recent years, now they're
Yeah.
almost full.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good. I think an electric vehicle company, EV battery company has recently located in there. So EV, another industry which we're seeing, this is a new priority by our government right now. So this is positive for the industrial sector since a lot of EV manufacturers, EV batteries as well, they're eyeing to locate in the Philippines right now.
Nice, nice. Now, what really excites me, since I've mentioned that most of us are into residential, especially those who would like to go into project selling, I'd like to again highlight what you have mentioned earlier, that the fastest growing would be the horizontal project
Horizontal.
in the leisure areas, especially in Batangas.
Batangas.
Those with unique designs, no? And
Yeah.
especially that are active yielding assets.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So guys, you know now the tip from the expert.
Mm.
I know a project there. Okay. Any questions? Any questions, guys? You can turn on your cameras and then ask the questions, or you can ask it here sa chat.
I think they have a question right here from
Ito. What's
Lorenzo
out?
Sat. Yeah.
Just want to clarify if the free parking promo in the market and which developers are offering this.
So I think the secondary market and the RFO market for us, we consider it as the same. So when we say the secondary market, these are already ready for occupancy. So pretty much the same. And yes, correct. They are owned, but this is only applicable for certain developers. So just to name one, New San Jose Builders. So other developers are I can't really contest if they're also offering this because for example, SM has been offering around 2 million for their parking space. So this is already equivalent to a condominium unit way back 2018,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
2019. So, but some developers such as NSJB, they've been bundling their parking along with the condominium unit.
Okay, now what's the outlook for the condominium market outside NCR, particularly in Pampanga, from Rich Oropeza?
So similar to the horizontal market, we also have an optimistic outlook for condominium market outside of Metro Manila. So, but in terms of supply, it would still be Cebu, which is leading. Uh, then followed by, if I remember correctly, Davao, Cavite. Pampanga is slowly catching up, if that's what you're asking. Some developers are now starting to launch projects there. And the good thing in Pampanga is that it's a mix of mid-income, for example, SMDC, the now residences, that's more than 1,000 units of lower mid-income units, which are already sold out. And then they're also offering leisure-oriented developments, so sort of resort type, and then upscale and luxury. So for example, in Nepo Center by Rockwell, they have two towers there which are almost sold out already. And then I think they're now planning to launch their third tower. So just goes to show how there's a growing affluence in Pampanga for growing appetite for upscale to luxury units. Another, I think the most expensive in Pampanga right now is from my former company, Philinvest, Filigree in Mimosa. So that's about 20 million per unit. So yeah, the good thing in Pampanga is that they cater to different markets from mid-income up until luxury. They have a market for that.
Yeah, I think even Century Properties is adding a new phase in their
Or
original
Azure.
Azure. Yeah, the
Azure,
lower
yes.
rise, the lower rise projects. No. Now, another question. How about DMCI homes? What are their standings in 2026? I know they've done very well last year.
Yes, they actually they've disclosed their earnings, and it's actually really good. So just to since this is already out in the market, so just going to share that they're actually the developer that's offering the 36 months rent to own promo, which I showed earlier. So this is actually very attractive and creative in order to move out, in order to move their supply in the RFO market. But our only worry here is that, for example, you're a renter and you decide not to buy the unit which you're renting in. So how sure is the developer that the renter will take care of the unit and for the 3 years of its stay? So that's our only worry. But for now, I think they're doing really good. They're also expanding outside of Metro Manila. They have a project in Batangas. So this is a leisure oriented in Solmera Coast. It's called Solmera Coast, and it's already 100% sold out. So it's really, as what I've mentioned earlier, developers should know where to focus on, what type of products they're going to offer in the market. So that's really very important.
Yeah, the rent own is really basically a relief for developers with RFO projects because imagine the maintenance of having vacant units. You have to
Yes,
pay for the dues, you have to pay for the maintenance. Now, if you have somebody there
renting.
renting and they know that they will own it, most of them will take care of the units,
Yeah,
especially since they have to take care of the maintenance and the dues. So
yeah.
that's a good relief. Now, even after 3 years, if they don't continue, well, they've paid for it. And
Yeah,
by 3 years, market would have recovered, yeah, significantly
hopefully,
already.
hopefully.
Regarding the was this the leisure-oriented projects, they also responded to that demand about 2.5 or 3 years ago, and it proved the direction of the market, which is in that leisure-oriented projects.
Yes, correct.
And all the developers, the major ones, have been going towards that direction. The only thing is
Yeah,
that if you're in a leisure area and then you have 1,000 neighbors, and you're there to have a vacation during peak season, I don't think you'll be relaxing. That's
So,
only, but then they have very good plans in generating occupants
mm,
even during non-peak season. They have
yes.
a mice facility there. They have a church. So this is good for the investors as well. Okay, any other questions? It's 10 a.m.
Sir Andy, may tanong lang ako. Mike Chan here. Sir Andy, nice to meet you.
Yes, Mike.
Oh, Sir Andy, actually, like me, medyo matagal na rin ako sa industry, 18 years. So may mga client ako last year. Ang problem, I think, yung investor, like what you said, investor, parang nag-hesitate ngayon to invest in the Philippines because of yung binadalahan nga ng BIR, yung mga condo. So like me, I have like 5 properties right now. So parang kailangan i-register mo ngayon as VAT. Kasi yung foreigner, parang before, kunyari sa developer, I've been Mega World before as director.
Mm,
Parang before, sinasabi namin, oh, bili ka lang, okay lang, mabilis lang bumili. But now, nagpadala sila sa mga Ayala, sa mga Mega World, sa mga top developers, yung mga BIR sa association. So, ang problem ngayon ng foreigner, hindi sila makaregistered. Parang kailangan mag-set up pa sila ng corporation or ICR para lang what you call that para lang makabili dito sa Philippines. Sana Sir Andy may maka-address nito yung especially yung VAT. So if example 10 years ago you're investing, kaya mo kung mag-rental yield ng 7%. Ngayon baka
mm,
7 to
4%
10
na
years.
lang.
Ngayon mga 15 years mo kukunin to 20 years di ba? So parang yung point ko lang Sir Andy, parang sana may mag-tackle or sa higher up like you na matagal na hindi we cannot attract investor like Dubai is wala silang tax. And then yung Japan mababa, yung yen, Philippines naging Southeast Asian labanan ngayon eh. So the question right now, Philippines, what are the developers are doing to attract investor? Kasi if we're not doing something, makukuha lang like may mga ibang countries na nag-offer yun nga like Dubai walang tax yung capital gains. Tayo hirap na hirap tayo. I-charge ka ng tax, may real property tax ka, may capital gains, may VAT ka pa. So how do we attack on that Sir Andy? I mean kay Sir Andy or sa Colliers, sana may sa mga developer may naglalabi sa atin na ayusin yun na yung foreign investor, kunyari, magbabayo siya, make it simpler. Eh, hindi eh. Parang nagiging red tape pa eh. Parang ganito, ganito gagawin. Ang daming gagawin. Hindi sila magkaroon ng isang system. So I think that's one problem. So that's why pumalo na, nag-hesitate na tayo sa Pogo Market. Di ba nag-hesitate na
Mm,
tayo sa Pogo Market? Malaki na yung nawala sa atin. Ngayon, kung ako investor, like I have a client from Brunei, he has like 150 million asset to me. So bakit siya maglalagay ng pera ngayon dito? Pinapahirapan sila. Mag-hesitate na sila. Di ba?
mm.
So parang, Sir Andy, how do you address on that, yung VAT issue? May tackle na ba dyan? Walang masyadong nag-uusap niya kasi mostly developers, sige, nag-adjust tayo sa rent-to-own terms, pero yung taxation, hindi nila pinag-uusapan. So paano ka mag invest ngayon? Di sa ibang country, well, in terms of mura, mura pa rin sa Pilipinas. Pero with the corruption ongoing, how could we attract investors, Sir Andy? So yun yung tanong ko lang. So how,
Okay, sige. Brent,
yes.
would you like to
Thank you,
tackle?
Sir Andy.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you.
I think
Thanks,
you're
Mike.
more familiar with that, sir, but I think it's more of the call of both the government and the private sector um, for that.
Yeah, like for example, the VAT, basically the original there is that if you are habitually engaged in rental, that is when you will be subjected to VAT, no, which is what more than
Mm,
6 units. Uh, Now we have to clarify yung issue niya regarding the VAT nga, no, even for single unit owners. But then it's true that the BIR has sent letters to the property owners to
mm,
declare or identify the units which are currently being rented. So yeah, that's actually a concern by a good number of agents and buyers.
brokers, right?
And that's one thing that we'll be discussing also and we'll be bringing up through Kreba. Okay. And then so we'll see and see Michael just ano to siguro you can monitor our updates maybe on my feed, no, and then we'll post this. And then regarding the other taxes, yes, if we compare it with, let's say,
Other
Dubai, yeah, other countries. Dubai, talagang wala sila naman ng mga taxes. They have a different form of government, and then they have different incentives, and medyo hindi pa natin kaya yung yung ganung system. Now, if we compare it naman with the other countries like US, doon naman, puro ka naman din taxes. So, where do we compare? Plus, they're comparing also guaranteed income. The Dubai properties now, they guarantee 10%, 10% for the next 3 years or 5 years. Now, that is what they can guarantee. But remember, this one happened in 2010, 2009, 2010, and look what happened in 2010. Why? Because I think basically real estate is driven by population. We have the population. Now, right now, they're growing very fast, very, very fast. But the thing is that do they have the actual population to sustain that? Just to give an example, what's this? Last what's this? December 6, I gave a talk sa Bangkok with the other presenters from the other countries. What they presented there is sa atin, if meron tayong concerned about the oversupply in some
for them
areas.
undersupply.
Yeah, it's oversupply in the other subsectors natin, no? But these are the new projects. It's basically a mismatch. But then, if you go to other countries, like for example, yung actual vacant housing nila, in Korea, you have 1.51 million. In Thailand, they have 1.64 million. In Japan, they have 8.9 million or close to 10 million vacant houses. In China, you have more than 50 million vacant houses. Dito sa atin, buti nga yung 6 years na projection nun, nagti 3 years na lang yun, ano?
Yeah.
Now, actual demand. Now, their population is also declining, while our population we have the most beautiful demographic profile. So this one may take up. So, yes, the Philippines has everything. Natural resources, very good people. Binalanse lang ni God ng visit ng mga politicians. So, but the thing there is that we can do something about it. What are we doing about it? Now, if I don't want to be very political, but I think we just have to do something about it. Hindi lang natin pwedeng i-tolerate. What you're doing now is good. I mean, airing this out, no? Airing this out. And then imagine if we remove this all corrupt politician. Imagine, we've been growing at an average of 6% for the past 9 years, regardless of who the president was. And yung pala, ang tagal na tayong ninanakawan. Imagine the growth of the Philippines if we eliminate all of this. But the good thing now is that the young people are going into that system. We have about 36 million Filipinos between 20 to 40 years old.
40.
That's about 34% of our entire population. And the 15-year-old going into the voting age in the next 3 years before 2028, they are going to change the direction of the elections. Hopefully, mas educated na yung votes nila. So may pag-asa. The Philippines will be a very influential country in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. It's really the government's call.
Huh?
It's really the government's call. And the voters.
And the
to
voters.
choose the right government.
Sir,
Yeah, but then we're going to bring that up, yung issue ng VAT, Mike.
Sir Andy, sana ma-address nga yun sa VAT kasi yun nga, parang tayo. Imagine like what I've told you sa Vietnam, $38 billion. Sayang yung nakukuha dapat natin.
Mm.
Diba? Parang sayang ang opportunity ng Philippines.
$38 million DFI ng Vietnam. It's
Yeah,
actually $38.2 million
billion,
billion
billion dollars.
dollars. $38.2 billion is the total FDI of Vietnam.
Mm.
Ang total OFW remittances natin is 38.4
38.
billion. So, I mean, if we compare, we have to compare apples to apples. Meron silang malakas sa kanila. Manufacturing nila mas malakas. Sa atin, hindi. Why? Their energy cost is lower. Sa atin, wala tayong sariling
Very
oil pa.
high.
We're only producing about 5% of our actual demand. They have oil. So in manufacturing, hindi tayo makakalaban doon.
Mm.
So there are things na meron sila, wala tayo, meron tayo, wala sila.
Sige, sir. Yun lang. Hindi kasi nanghinayang ko kasi meron na tayo. Pag nagdagdagan pa yun, mas maganda, di ba, Sir
Oh,
Andy?
definitely. Definitely. We still
Kasi-
have, ano pa to, partida pa sila ngayon. Our growth is partida pa. Our infra is improving. All we have to do is to kick out all this corrupt politicians, and we're going to fly. We are going to grow, and this is according to Bernie Villegas. The Philippines can grow at a minimum of 5% regardless of who the president is because of the fundamentals that we have. Now, if we have a good president, we can grow double digits. Basically, that's it. We already have all the other presidents, no matter how we love them or hate them, they have institutionalized some fundamentals which are already irreversible. No matter how you hate, let's say, GMA, dun nag-start din yung mga OFWs din natin. Now they're producing this one, the flyovers, the skyways, they're producing na. So, each president, no matter how we love or hate them, may iniwan yan na legacy na irreversible. So, ano lang to, masusustain now if we elect a very good president, we can grow double digits. It's not even me saying this. This is aside from the demographic divide. Si ano natin, one of the most respected economists said, yun nga, we will grow at a minimum 5% regardless of who the president is.
Thank you, Sir Andy.
Thank you. Basta ano lang tayo sa mga investors, now, you want to see all this positive news, you go to realestatenews.ph. Okay. Thank you. Sino pa? Okay, it's 10:13. Any message for 2026, Brent?
So for 2026, we're pretty optimistic. So as what we're saying in Collier, so slowly but surely, so it's going to be a gradual recovery, but we're getting there. So for the brokers out there, our message should probably be to hang tight. We're getting there.
Yeah. You see, if you try to graph, we just don't have the time, no. But next session, please attend, Michael. I'll show you the growth graph of the Philippines, which is supposed to be really, we're on track. Basically, we're on track. What just happened in 2016 to 2019, there was a hump. There was like a bump, ng camel's bump, no? Medyo irregular yung growth natin 2016 to 2019, no? Which was driven by the speculative buying of these foreigners, specifically the Chinese, which created an artificial demand.
Yeah.
Any artificial demand is not sustainable. So, what's happening now, so nag-bump sa 2019, bumaba, it did not fall. It just corrected.
Normalized.
Normal siya. So now we are back on track and there's that growth.
That's what we call as the artificial demand.
Correct.
So
So we're just on track. Medyo marami lang marami lang speculative buying in 2019. And even the agents, there were a lot of agents who were very good. Top seller, top seller. But they were good because it was a good time. Anybody can sell during a good time. This is where you separate the man from the boys. So, nga pala, we have, for those who want to attend, no, we have Keller Williams session Built to Last. Built to Last. This will be in person dun sa office on Thursday. So this is to help you prepare for 2026. Help you not only navigate but discover what system, what strategies you need to have in order to make this not only survive but thrive in 2026. So again, we'd like to thank everyone who attended here today, and thank you very much, Brent, for being our very first, our very special kick-off guest for
yeah.
2026, and
Thank you, Andy.
bringing the bright news for the year. I
Yes,
hope this
thank
will
you.
not be the last, huh?
Yes, of course. You could just invite me if Joey's not around. I'll be very glad to substitute for him again.
Okay. See you around in the events. I'm sure there will be a lot of uh, economic briefings
Yes.
in the coming days.
We're having our next briefing on February 2. So it's a Monday for the first time. We're conducting it on a Monday. So if you guys are available, you can also join our webinar the day after. So Feb 3 on Tuesday. So yeah,
Okay, we will do that. We will do that.
thank you. I'll also be sharing a copy of my presentation. So if your agents
Yes.
would like to know more about it, I'll give you a copy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So those who would like to have a share, just message me.
Okay.
I will
Thank
have I
you.
want to have that copy. Just message me. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.